Some of you are waiting on a person, but God is working on a purpose. You keep asking, where is my soulmate? But God is asking, are you becoming who I called you to be? Because divine timing doesn't work on your clock, it works on God's calendar. And let me tell you something, delayed doesn't mean denied. Single doesn't mean stuck. Alone doesn't mean abandoned. It might just mean you're in the season of becoming, not waiting. When the time is right, the Lord will make it happen. But if you rush it, you might settle for good and miss God's best. Stop worrying about the ring and start walking in righteousness. Your soulmate is not the prize. You becoming who God called you to be is the real win. The love you're waiting for is coming, but it's tied to divine timing. And when it shows up, it'll feel like grace, not pressure. So trust the timing, trust the God behind the timing, and don't settle for less than heaven's best. You've been told to wait on God's timing, but what does that even mean when you're staring at another wedding invitation, or scrolling through highlight reels of happy couples and coming home to the silence of your own thoughts? It's not easy. It feels like everyone else got the memo, like love is knocking on their door but somehow missed yours. You pray, you fast, you swipe, you hope, and still it feels like nothing is moving. But let me remind you of something powerful. God's timing is greater than your timeline. We live in a world that worships speed, fast food, fast internet, fast results. We want everything now, especially love. And if we're honest, we often treat God like Amazon Prime. If it doesn't come in 2 days, we start doubting. We start asking, God, did you forget about me? Did you misplace my blessing? Are you ignoring me? But God isn't late. He's not on your timeline. Because His plan isn't rooted in convenience, it's rooted in preparation. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't. Delay is not denial. Think about a farmer. He doesn't plant a seed and then dig it up tomorrow to check if it's grown. No. He trusts the process. He understands that time and hiddenness are part of the miracle. He knows the roots have to grow before the fruit can show. And the same is true for your soulmate. God might be growing roots in your life, strengthening your identity, healing your wounds, building your character, because the relationship He's preparing you for needs a strong foundation. Maybe you're asking God for a relationship, but He's saying, I'm building resilience first. You're saying, God, I want someone to complete me, but He's saying, let me make you whole so that love doesn't become a crutch but a calling. Because if you're broken and they're broken, you don't create a hole, you create a mess. God's not being slow, He's being intentional. Let's look at a real life example. Imagine two people, Alex and Jordan, both love God, both want to be married. But Alex is in a season of bitterness, still carrying wounds from a past relationship. Meanwhile, Jordan is trying to learn how to communicate better and trust again. If they met too early, they'd only bring out the worst in each other. But God sees what they don't. He says, wait, not now. I'm not withholding, I'm protecting. Sometimes protection looks like postponement. Sometimes God will hold something back, not to punish you, but to prepare both of you separately. So when you come together, it's not chaos, it's calling. It's not pressure, it's purpose. Now think about your own life. Can you see the moments where you rushed something and it fell apart? The friendship you forced, the job you begged for that turned out to be toxic, the relationship that looked good on paper but left you feeling empty. You learn that what comes quickly doesn't always come with quality. And what comes from God won't need to be forced, it will be formed with peace, not panic. God's not pacing nervously in heaven trying to matchmake. He's the author. He's already written the story. You're not auditioning for a role that hasn't been cast yet. You're walking into a scene that's already been scripted. But here's the catch. If you try to skip scenes, you miss development. And God will never promote you to a stage your character can't support. So while you're sitting there thinking, God, it's been too long, I want to flip the script. What if this isn't the waiting room? What if it's the training ground? What if this is where you become the person who can steward the love you're asking for? Because here's the truth. Love is not a vacation, it's a vocation. It's not just chemistry and butterflies. It's commitment, character, and calling. And that kind of love requires timing that's divine, not rushed. You wouldn't want a cake that's under. Why settle for a relationship that hasn't been fully prepared? So don't curse the calendar. Celebrate the preparation. Every no today might be making room for a better yes tomorrow. Every time you feel overlooked, remember you're not forgotten. You're not missing out. You're moving forward even if it doesn't feel like it. When you start to trust that God's delay is not His denial, your heart can rest. You don't have to strive, you don't have to settle, you don't have to manipulate your way into someone's life. You just have to believe that when the time is right, the Lord will make it happen, and when He does, it'll be better than anything you could have orchestrated on your own. Because God is not preparing a relationship that will complete you. He's preparing one that will complement your purpose, reflect His glory, and carry the kind of love that points back to Him. And that kind of love, it's worth the wait. You think your soulmate is lost, that maybe they took a wrong turn somewhere, maybe they chose the wrong person. Maybe they missed their moment with you and now you're left wondering if you'll ever find them. But I need to challenge that thinking. What if they're not lost? What if they're being alive? What if instead of being far away, they're being positioned by the hand of God, piece by piece, step by step in divine alignment with your life? We often imagine love as this mysterious treasure hunt, where we're running around trying to find but the truth is God doesn't play hide and seek with his promises. He doesn't dangle a soulmate in front of you like bait on a hook. He aligns, he orchestrates, he prepares. Just because you don't see it happening doesn't mean he isn't moving. God isn't passive, he's precise. Think about a GPS. When you put in the destination, the system calculates not only where you're going but where you are right now. It considers traffic, obstacles, detours. If you take a wrong turn, it doesn't give up on the journey, it recalculates. The goal is still the same. You're still gonna get there. And that's how God works when it comes to your soulmate. He's aligning not only the person but also the path. And sometimes alignment takes time because you both are still being shaped for the route he has destined for you. We've all been. You meet someone who looks like the perfect match. It feels right. They say the right things, but something doesn't sit well deep inside. You brush it off thinking, maybe I'm just afraid of commitment. But what if that uneasiness was divine misalignment? What if God was trying to protect you from a relationship that looked good but wasn't God ordained? Sometimes God says no to someone we want because he sees what we can't. That person might not be bad, but they're not aligned with your destiny. And God loves you too much to let you build a future with someone who's only temporary comfort, when he's preparing you for eternal purpose. There's a woman I know who waited for years praying for her future husband. She watched all her friends get married, start families, and move into new seasons. She tried dating apps, she went on blind dates. Nothing stuck. She started to feel like maybe she had missed her moment. But what she didn't know was that her future husband was in a season of deep healing. He had gone through heartbreak. He had been walking through counseling. God was pruning things in his life, cutting off pride, fear, and baggage from his past. When they finally met, it wasn't instant sparks, it wasn't fireworks, it was peace, it was timing, and it was alignment. That's what divine alignment looks like. It's not always dramatic, but it's always right. God knows what you need before you even ask. He knows the personality traits, the spiritual maturity, the emotional stability, and the purpose partner that matches your mission on this. So while you're worrying about where they are, God is preparing who they are. While you're praying for them to appear, he's building the character you'll need when they do. Alignment means it will happen when it's meant to happen. Not sooner, not later, but exactly when it brings him glory and brings you growth. We get frustrated because we want a moment. We want to meet them today, but God is building a move. He's creating two whole individuals, walking out their callings, growing in their faith, refining their gifts, so that when they finally meet, it's not just romance, it's revelation. Don't let impatience make you believe something is broken. Divine alignment feels slow in a fast-paced world. But think about a lock and a key. The key may look perfect, but if it's not the exact shape to match the grooves of the lock, it won't open the door. God is shaping you and your future spouse with precision. The reason it hasn't worked out with others is not because you're broken, it's because you weren't meant to fit. And when the right key meets the right lock, the door opens easily. That's how you'll know. It won't feel forced. It won't be filled with confusion. It'll feel like time. It'll feel like grace. It'll feel like alignment. You won't have to shrink yourself, fake your joy, or compromise your values just to keep them interested. The right one will already be aligned with who God has made you to be. So stop thinking they're lost. God knows where they are and he knows where you are. And when the time is right, when both of you are ready, when your purpose and their purpose begin to align, he'll do what only he can do. He'll bring you together in a way that no app, no friend, no timing of your own could ever. You don't need to chase. You don't need to settle. You don't need to question if you missed it. All you need to do is trust the alignment, because the one God has for you isn't lost. They're being led, just like you keep wondering, when is it going to happen for me? When will I find the one? And in that waiting, is tempting to look around and compare your life to others. You see couples holding hands at the coffee shop. You see engagement posts flooding your timeline. You attend weddings where the love looks effortless, and you go home questioning your worth. But what if I told you that you don't need to chase love? What if I told you that becoming whole on your own with God is what attracts the kind of love you're praying for? You see, we've been conditioned by culture to believe that love is something we have to run after. That if we just say the right thing, wear the right outfit, post the right selfie, then maybe, just maybe, we'll catch the attention of someone who sees our value. But that's not love, that's performance. And anything you have to perform to get, you'll have to perform to keep. But when you become whole, when you know who you are, whose you are, and why you were created, you stop chasing and start attracting. People are drawn to authenticity. Wholeness radiates confidence, and not the fake kind that screams for attention. Real confidence says, I know my worth whether I'm in a relationship or not. I know I am loved whether I'm pursued or not. I know I have purpose whether someone is walking beside me or I'm walking alone. That kind of security is magnetic. It attracts not just attention, it attracts alignment. Let me tell you about a man named Chris. He spent years jumping from relationship to relationship, constantly looking for someone to complete him. He was terrified of being alone, so he dated quickly, committed too soon, and kept getting hurt. Finally, after another breakup left him broken, he decided to stop. He turned his focus inward. He began therapy. He went back to church. He picked up his guitar again, something he hadn't touched in years. Slowly, piece by piece, he started discovering who he was when no one else was around to affirm it. And something shifted. He wasn't desperate anymore. He wasn't chasing anymore. He was becoming. Months later, he met someone, but this time it wasn't from a place of emptiness. It was from overflow. He wasn't trying to find someone to fill a gap. He was whole and she was too. Their relationship wasn't based on need. It was based on purpose. Because two whole people don't come together out of desperation. They come together to multiply what God has already started in each of them. So many of us are looking for someone to fix us, but love doesn't fix brokenness. And if you enter into a relationship with a broken sense of identity, you'll start depending on the other person to validate you. That's when things get unhealthy. You start needing constant reassurance. You read too deeply into their silence. You give too much too quickly because you're afraid they'll leave, and that's not love, that's fear wearing a mask. But when you are whole, when you've sat in the presence of God long enough to hear Him say, you are already enough, you stop needing someone to validate your existence. Your joy doesn't depend on a text message. Your peace isn't tied to someone else's availability. You're not trying to be chosen because you know you are already chosen by the one who matters most. Think about a magnet. A magnet doesn't move around chasing. It just is, and because of what it's made of, it attracts what it's designed to draw in. That's what happens when you live from a place of wholeness. You don't have to chase love when you're living aligned with who God made you to. You start attracting people who respect your peace, honor your growth, and don't expect you to shrink to fit their insecurity. And here's the truth, wholeness is not perfection. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't need to wait until every issue is fixed before you're ready to love or be loved. But you do need to be aware of your patterns, aware of your wounds, aware of your worth. Because when you become aware, you stop handing your heart to anyone who smiles in your direction. You wait for someone who sees your value without needing you to prove it. Your season of singleness isn't punishment, it's preparation. It's a time to become the kind of person you're praying to meet. You want someone emotionally mature? Become emotionally mature. You want someone spiritually grounded? Go deeper in your own faith. You want someone consistent, loyal, and confident in their purpose? Start walking in yours. Because here's the bottom line, the love you're praying for is on the other side of who you're becoming, not who you're pretending to be, not who you were in your last relationship, who you are right now in the becoming. And when you become whole, you stop settling for pieces. So take this season and own it. Use it to heal, to grow, to rediscover your joy, to build your dreams. Let God fill every part of you that once felt empty. And when love does show up, it won't feel like you finally became complete. It'll feel like you finally met someone who was running at the same pace in the same direction, toward the same God, and the two of you met whole and ready. You don't need to chase what God is alive. Just become whole. The right love will recognize you. We live in a world that moves fast, so fast in fact that we've come to expect everything to happen instantly. We want one-click love. We want microwave relationships. We want soulmates delivered like takeout, hot, ready, and at our door in 30 minutes or less. But what if the timing of God has nothing to do with your schedule? What if love isn't late? It's being prepared in a way you can't yet see. Divine timing is not about speed, it's about seek. God is not trying to frustrate you. He's trying to form you, and some of the delays you've been interpreting as no are actually not yet. Not because He's withholding love from you, but because He's too faithful to give you a blessing you're not yet ready to carry, or one the other person isn't ready to steward either. Think about a cake in the oven. You don't pull it out just because you're hungry. You wait until it's done. If you rush the process, you ruin the product. The middle's still gooey. The shape caves in. It looks right on the outside but collapses when pressure comes. That's what rushed relationships look like. They might seem beautiful on the surface, but when real life hits, when pain shows up, when communication gets hard, when sacrifice is required, they fall apart. Not because they didn't mean well, but because they weren't ready. And that's why God is taking His time with you. That's why you're still waiting, not because something is wrong with you, but because something is still cooking. Maturity is still rising. Purpose is still developed. You are being refined in this season, not because you're being punished, but because God loves you too much to rush what is meant to last a lifetime. Take a moment and think back. Think about that person you thought was the one 2 years ago, the one you cried over, the one you couldn't imagine your life without. Look at you now, thriving, clear-headed, thankful. You thought the door closing was the end, but God was using it as preparation. That delay saved you from a lifetime of confusion. That heartbreak was divine redirect. Sometimes the greatest mercy God gives us is unanswered prayers. I know it's hard to wait. I know it's painful to see others post about anniversaries while you go home to an empty apartment. I know the questions sneak in late at night. Is something wrong with me? Did I miss my window? Have I been forgotten? But let me tell you, delay is not denial. It's development. There's a story in the Bible about Lazarus. When Jesus heard that his friend was sick, he didn't rush over. He stayed where he was for 2 more days, and by the time he got there, Lazarus was dead. Everyone was weeping. Everyone thought he was late, but Jesus said something powerful. This sickness will not end in death. You see, in our limited view, we think if something takes too long, it's over. But Jesus doesn't operate on our timeline. He operates on divine time. What looks dead to you is simply setting the stage for God to show His glory. He may not come when you want, but He is never late. That applies to love too. You think you're behind, but God is ahead. He's already gone into your future and mapped out divine intersections you don't even see coming. He's working on hearts. He's arranging moments. He's aligning purposes. So when you meet the one, it won't be just a cute story. It'll be a testimony. It'll be one of those only God could have done this kind of stories. And the waiting, it'll all make sense. I once heard about a woman who was in her mid-30s, single, and deeply discouraged. She had done everything right, served in church, went to therapy, focused on becoming whole, but still nothing. One night, as she was journaling, she felt God tell her, "You're not waiting on love, is waiting on you to walk into the right place at the right time." That changed her. She stopped striving. She stopped settling. She started living fully, not waiting for someone to join her life, but living the life God had already given. 2 years later, at a conference she almost didn't attend, she met a man who had been on a similar journey. They didn't just connect, they clicked. Purpose, timing, wholeness, it all came together, not because they rushed it, but because they trusted God with it. You're not behind, you're not broken, you're not being punished, you are being positioned. So don't grow bitter in the waiting, grow better. Lean into your purpose, water the soil of your life, develop your gifts, strengthen your faith, because when the right person shows up, they're not coming to complete you, they're coming to partner with you. And 2 people walking in purpose, aligned in time, covered in grace, that's a love story worth waiting for. So yes, divine timing might make you uncomfortable. It might stretch your patience. It might challenge your expectations, but it will never ever disappoint you, because what God brings in His time is not only good, it's perfect. Trust the process. Let Him write the story. You just keep living it well. We live in a world that thrives on doing. We're praised for our hustle, rewarded for our productivity, and admired for how much we can accomplish in a single day. But when it comes to love, especially the kind of love that lasts, it's not about how much you can do, it's about what you can surrender. Because the truth is, some of the greatest breakthroughs in your life won't come from striving, they'll come from trusting. When you're looking for your soulmate, it's easy to feel like you have to work for it. You start reading all the right books, going to all the right places, saying all the right things. You open 5 different dating apps, tweak your profile 3 times a week, and pray with one eye open, waiting for someone to show up. But love, real love, is not a reward for your effort. It's a gift that arrives when you surrender your timeline and trust the one who wrote your story. Let me tell you about a woman named Jessica. She had a plan. By 25, she wanted to be married. By 30, she wanted kids. She had it all mapped out in her planner, color-coded with sticky notes and highlighters. She worked hard on herself. She was emotionally intelligent, spiritually grounded, and physically active. But every relationship she got into ended the same way: confusion, disappointment, heartbreak. One day, after yet another failed attempt at love, she sat in a room and cried out to God, "What more do you want from me?" And in that quiet moment, she felt something shift inside. It was like God whispered, "I don't need you to do more. I need you to let go." That moment changed everything. She didn't stop desiring love, but she stopped trying to manufacture it. She deleted the apps, not out of bitterness, but because she wanted to live from a place of peace, not panic. She stopped showing up to events hoping to meet someone, and started showing up just to be present. She began living a life that was full, not waiting for love to arrive, but trusting that if it was meant to, it would. And 1 year later, love found her. Not because she was striving, but because she was resting in the timing and goodness of God. You see, surrender is not giving up. It's not sitting on your couch waiting for someone to knock on your door. Surrender is alignment. It's choosing to believe that God knows your heart, your dreams, your desires, and He's more committed to fulfilling them than you are. It's letting go of your grip on control and opening your hands to receive what's meant for you. Because sometimes the very thing blocking your blessing is your need to control it. Look at Abraham in the Bible. God promised him a child, but when the wait got too long, he and Sarah took matters into their own hands. They rushed the promise. They tried to help, and what did it lead to? Complications, confusion, and pain. But when they finally surrendered, when they finally trusted that God's timing was perfect, Isaac was born, not by striving, but by faith. That's the kind of love not something you forced into existence, but something that came from divine orchestration. You want a love that's built on purpose, not pressure. A love that shows up not because you chased it down, but because you trusted God enough to let it find you. And this kind of trust, this kind of surrender isn't passive. It's powerful. It means waking up each day and saying, God, I trust that you are preparing me and preparing them. I don't need to manipulate outcomes or chase people down. I don't need to audition for. I trust you to bring what's meant for me. That's real faith. That's the kind of posture that makes room for miracles. Think about a farmer. He doesn't dig up the soil every day to see if the seed is growing. He plants it, waters it, and waits. He trusts the process because he knows the soil is working even when he can't see it. That's what surrender looks like. It's planting your desire in faith and letting God water it with His timing, His wisdom, and His love. When you live from a place of trust, you stop accepting counterfeit love. You stop lowering your standards out of fear. You stop compromising your values just to feel wanted, because you know you are already loved completely and unconditionally by a God who is not in a hurry, but who is always on time. So don't let the pressure of the world rob you of your peace. Don't let your timeline become your idol. Don't let loneliness lead you into places you were never meant to stay. Surrender the outcome. Trust the process. Because when you stop striving, when you truly let go, you create space for something greater than you imagine. You may not know how it's going to happen. You may not see signs of progress right now. But trust this, God is not idle. He's active. He's aligning paths. He's preparing hearts. And when the time is right, love will not be something you have to chase. It'll be something that finds you in your surrender. So breathe, relax, rest in His promise. Love isn't something you have to earn. It's something you'll receive when you stop striving and start trusting. There's something incredibly powerful about the idea of walking in faith while you wait. It's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture when we get caught up in our expectations. We set timelines, create mental checklists, and measure our worth based on what we see around us. We compare ourselves to others who seem to be further along, whose lives seem more together, whose relationships seem to be falling into place effortlessly, and we wonder, why not me? What's wrong with me? But let me tell you this, waiting does not mean you are it simply means that God is preparing something greater for you than you could ever imagine. You see, faith is not passive, it's active. Faith is about continuing to live your life fully, even when you can't see how everything is going to work out. It's about making the decision to trust that the things that are meant for you will find you in the right season, at the right time. Take a moment to think about it this way. Have you ever planted a seed and then impatiently dug it up every day to check if it's sprouting? Of course you have. Why? Because you know that the seed needs time to grow. You trust that when it's ready, it will push its way through the soil. But the growth happens underground, unseen, where it's being nurtured and developed. Similarly, while you may not see the fruits of your faith yet, trust that God is working behind the scenes, preparing your heart and preparing the person meant for you. I'll never forget a conversation I had with a friend named Mish. She had been single for several years, and it seemed like every time she got close to someone, things would fall apart. She told me, I don't understand why I can't find love. Everyone around me is getting engaged, married, and having kids. It feels like I'm invisible. But when we sat down and talked, something clicked for her. She realized that she had spent so much of her life focusing on what was lacking, that she couldn't see what was right in front of her. She was whole. She wasn't waiting to be completed by someone else. She had dreams, passions, and purpose, and she wasn't about to waste her time chasing someone who couldn't keep up with her vision. So she made a choice to stop measuring her life based on someone else's timeline and started focusing on her own growth. 6 months later, Michelle met someone at a conference. It wasn't some grand love story. It wasn't a magical moment in which everything fell into place instantly, but it was the right connection. They had aligned goals, their lives were compatible, and the best part was that they didn't need each other to complete them. They came together to multiply each other's strengths. Michelle had spent years building her own life, and when love found her, it didn't feel like a desperate search. It felt like a reward for walking in. You see, the key to walking in faith while you wait is to trust that the process is just as important as the destination. You are not missing out on life just because you're not in a relationship right now. You are growing. You are becoming. And when the right time comes, when the right person crosses your path, it won't feel like something you found. It will feel like something you were always meant to find, because it will fit perfectly with the life you've been building while you were waiting. Think about it. There's a season for everything. Think about nature. The seasons don't rush. Winter doesn't try to become spring. Spring doesn't try to become summer. They know that each season has its purpose and each one is necessary for what's to come. The same goes for your life. There's a season for singleness, and there's a season for partnership. And just like the earth needs time to rest and renew itself before it can produce fruit again, so do you. Your heart needs time to heal, to grow, to become stronger. So when love comes, it will be sustaining instead of fleeting. You're not waiting for the right person to complete you. You're waiting for the right person to match you. And that only happens when you know who you are and what you bring to the table. You're not seeking validation anymore. You're walking in the confidence that you are already worthy of love, because you are loved fully and unconditionally by the Creator. Look at the example of Ruth in the Bible. She didn't go out seeking Boaz. She didn't chase after him or force a connection. She simply walked in faith. She stayed true to her purpose, cared for her family, and lived her life in honor of the commitment she had already made. And when the time was right, when her heart and her life were ready, Boaz found her. But it wasn't the pursuit of Boaz that brought her happiness. It was the pursuit of God's will that made her ready to receive love. When you stop chasing, when you stop trying to force things to happen, you allow God to step in and do what only He can. He will bring you the right person at the right time when you least expect it. And it won't be because you forced it. It will be because you've trusted the timing. Trust that you are not missing out. Your life is being woven together in a way that will make perfect sense when you look back. The waiting isn't wasted. The growth isn't for nothing. It's all preparing you for the future you can't yet see, but will soon be able to experience in its fullness. Keep walking in faith. Keep trusting that love will come, not because you've spent your time desperately searching for it, but because you've spent your time growing in it. When the right time comes, love won't just find you, it will find the best version of you. Have you ever felt like you're waiting for a sign, some kind of divine confirmation that the love you've been dreaming of is on its way? We all do at some point in our lives. We look for the answers, the signals, the signs that everything we've prayed for is about to happen. We think, when will my time come? When will the person I've been waiting for finally show up? But sometimes the very thing you're waiting for is already here, and it's in the waiting itself. I want you to consider something. What if the signs you're waiting for are not external at all? What if they are already written in the way you live, in the way you love, and in the way you have come to trust the process of life? There's a powerful thing that happens when you stop waiting for external signs and start listening to the signals of your own heart. I'm talking about recognizing the inner growth you've already experienced, the healing that's been happening quietly day by day when you weren't paying attention. There's something divine about the way God works in your life, even when you don't see the immediate results. Let me share a story with you. A friend of mine, Sarah, had been single for years. She had been through relationships that left her broken, her heart battered, her confidence shaken. She prayed for clarity, for guidance, and for a man who would cherish her the way she felt she deserved. But year after year, it felt like nothing was happening. She got discouraged. She started to doubt herself and her worth. She wondered if maybe God had forgotten her. But one day, Sarah found herself in a moment of reflection. She sat in a quiet place, looked back at her life, and realized something profound. She realized that through all her heartaches, she had grown. Her pain had given her purpose. Her disappointments had built her resilience. Her single years had been a time of preparation, not punishment. She had learned to love herself, to trust herself, to be whole on her own. That moment was a turning point. She stopped looking outward for the signs. She stopped waiting for the perfect man to show up and started seeing the signs within herself. She saw her own strength. She saw how far she'd come. She realized that the very qualities she had been praying for, love, patience, kindness, understanding, were the qualities she had been cultivating in her own life all along. That realization changed everything. It wasn't that love had passed her by or that her prayers had gone unanswered. It was that God was using this time to prepare her heart. He was showing her that the signs she needed were not external but internal, and once she recognized that, she was no longer waiting for love to find her. She had already become the kind of person who could receive the love she had been praying for. Just like Sarah, we all go through seasons of waiting. It may feel frustrating. You may feel like you've been overlooked, but trust me when I say you're not waiting in vain. The signs you're looking for are not just in the world around you, they are in the transformation that's happening within you. And when you realize that, everything changes. Think about the process of a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. It goes through stages of complete metamorphosis, and you don't see it happening on the outside until it's ready to break free. You can't rush it. You can't force the transformation. It's a quiet, sacred process, but the butterfly knows its time will come. And when it does, it emerges in a way that was always destined to happen. The waiting wasn't wasted, it was necessary. That's how love works. It's not always visible in the early stage, but every moment of waiting, every prayer, every act of faith, every step of healing is preparing you for the moment when you will be ready to fly. The signs you're looking for are not always grand gestures or immediate results. Sometimes they are small but significant moments that tell you you're moving in the right direction. They show up in the way you've healed from past hurts, and how you've learned to set boundaries, and how you've come to understand what it means to love yourself first. These are the signs of growth, of progress, of readiness. And when the time comes, when your heart is fully prepared, when your spirit is at peace, when your life is full of purpose, love will show. Not because you were desperate for it, but because you had become the person who could fully embrace it. The right person will come along at the right time, and the connection will be undeniable because you will both be aligned in purpose, vision, and spirit. Don't miss this. Sometimes the greatest sign you can receive is the awareness that God has been working in you all along. You may not have seen it in the moment, but when you take a step back, when you reflect on how far you've come, you'll see how perfectly everything has been orchestrated. So stop looking for external signs that tell you you're ready. Start recognizing the signs within yourself. Recognize your growth, your healing, your transformation. Recognize the strength that's been built within you. Trust that the season of waiting is not in vain. It is preparing you, just like it prepared Sarah to receive what is truly meant for you. When you stop waiting for the world to give you signs, you'll start recognizing the most important signs, the ones that have been in front of you all along. You are ready, you are whole, and love will come not because you've chased it, but because you've become the person who can receive it in its fullness. Keep growing, keep trusting, and watch how everything aligns perfectly in due time. Sometimes the most important thing we can do while waiting for love is to keep living. It might sound counterintuitive, but the truth is, life doesn't stop because we're waiting for something. Life doesn't pause when we desire something, especially something as big and life-changing as love. Too often we get caught in the trap of believing that our happiness is contingent on meeting the right person, that our joy depends on a relationship that hasn't arrived yet, but that is the wrong perspective. The truth is, love will find you when you are living your life full. Take a moment to think about all the times you've put your life on hold for something to happen. Maybe you've avoided certain opportunities because you were waiting for love to come first. Maybe you've postponed travel plans, career decisions, or personal growth because you thought, I'll do that once I'm in a relationship. But the truth is, the fullness of life is available to you right now. It's not something that has to wait for another person to show. You are complete right where you are. Let me share the story of a woman named Emily. She spent so much time searching for love, thinking it was the missing piece in her life. She dreamed of the perfect relationship, a companion who would make her feel whole, someone to share all of life's beautiful moments with. But during all those years of searching, Emily neglected one crucial thing: her own love. She became consumed with the idea of finding the right person that she failed to see the opportunities, the beauty, and the moments that were already available to her. It wasn't until she reached a point of complete exhaustion and frustration that she decided to make a change. One afternoon, Emily sat down and realized that her life had become stagnant. Her hopes were all tied up in this ideal of the one, and she had stopped living for herself. She had missed out on so much by waiting. So she made a decision. She would no longer live in the shadow of what might come. She would embrace her life now without waiting for someone else to validate it. She started with simple things. She took up a new hobby she had always wanted to try but had put off for years. She started traveling, booking solo trips to places she had only dreamed of visiting. She focused on her career, pouring energy into a project she had been delaying for too long. She reconnected with her friends, with herself, and began to heal from old wounds. And most importantly, she began to enjoy her own company. She learned how to thrive in her own presence, to find joy in the solitude, and to be grateful for the life she was living, even without a partner. Over time, something incredible happened. As Emily began living fully, she felt lighter, more confident, and more fulfilled. Her energy shifted. She wasn't coming from a place of scarcity or lack anymore. She was coming from a place of abundance. She was living her life as though it was already everything she needed it to be. And in doing so, she became magnetic. Her perspective on love changed. Instead of looking for someone to complete her, she started seeking a partner who would add to the already amazing life she was living. And guess what? That's when love found her. She met someone, not because she was searching desperately, but because she was living her life authentically. The relationship that followed wasn't about two halves coming together to make a whole. It was about two people who were already whole, who had built lives full of passion, purpose and joy. Their connection was genuine because they weren't relying on each other for their happiness. They were simply adding to each other's happiness. This story isn't unique. It happens every day. When you stop waiting for something to change in order to live your best life, you free yourself from the chains of expectation. When you stop believing that love is the final missing piece, you unlock the potential to live a rich, fulfilling life, one that is not defined by whether or not you're in a relationship. Take a step back and look at the way you approach your own life. Are you living it to the fullest? Or are you waiting for love to show up so you can start living the way you want? Are you putting your dreams on hold, thinking they'll come to fruition once you find the right person? Or are you taking the necessary steps to grow, to explore, to enjoy the world around you, and to take advantage of the opportunities before you? When you start living, really living, you become the kind of person who attracts the kind of love you've been waiting. You become magnetic because you're no longer seeking completion. You are already complete. You are living with purpose. And when you meet someone who is also living with purpose, you'll see that the connection is not about fixing something that was broke. It's about sharing what's already full and abundant in your life. Imagine waking up every day knowing that you have everything you need within yourself. You wake up excited to see what the day will bring. Not because you're waiting for someone to make you happy, but because you know that you can create your own happiness. You're not rushing to get somewhere. You're already there. You are not waiting for love to define you. You are living in such a way that love will naturally find you when the time is right. This doesn't mean that you won't have moments of longing. Of course, we all want to love and be loved, but it does mean that while you wait for that to unfold, you don't stop living. You don't wait for someone to come along and make everything better. You make the decision to make your own life rich, full and meaningful. And when you do, when you truly start living, love will be drawn to you, not because you're trying to find it, but because you are already living the life that is worthy of it. And that is when you'll know that your waiting wasn't in vain. It was simply a time of growing, becoming and living the best version of yourself, exactly as you were meant.